Hello everyone, thank you for staying with us. It's quite late, so I hope you will not fall asleep. And my name is Eliška. I am a PhD student at Charles University in Prague, where I focus on water weaponization, which is also my topic for today. I was wondering, how do I fit in R2P and the humanitarian intervention? I will maybe leave the topic a little bit, but I'm still, thank you, staying in, as water weaponization did take place in Libya in 2011, and it is covered by the international humanitarian law, for example, the additional protocols to the Geneva Convention. So we will stay in the topic, but we will also talk about nuclear weapons, about military utility, even religion and philosophy a little bit. Okay, I can control it here, thank you. All right, so what I would like to draw your attention to today is like the nexus of using water in war and the international law that prohibits it. So there is this concept of water taboo that's built on nuclear taboo that works with this moral abhorrence of violating water, as it is, you know, like part of humanitarian principles, the right to water, and in indigenous philosophy, that's life, not just in the philosophy, it is the life. But if we look in the philosophy, for example, in Bolivia, water is the blood of Pachamama, the mother of the universe. In Tibet, the Brahmaputra river is the spine of the goddess. We can see water as a metaphor in Bible, you know, like it means divine. And in Quran, water weaponization is literally heretical. Quran prohibits water weaponization in different sections and different types. So we have this moral expectation. We have it institutionalized. So if we take a look on the constructivist teaching, we expect this institutionalization, internalization, leading to a potential taboo-like prohibition, not only because it is law, but also because it's this moral constraint. So this is where the idea of a water taboo comes from, but in the literature and in the news, we quite often see also the talking about water infrastructure, for example, dams, and literally the damage they can cause as comparable to the weapons of mass destruction. So for example, when we spoke about ISIS and about the Mosul Dam, there was an article saying that if Mosul Dam was ever breached, the scale of damage would be comparable with a nuclear attack, drowning 700 kilometers of land all the way south to the Iraqi capital. And what's more, we live in the climate change era, unfortunately. We have unpredictable rainfall pattern, we have scarce water. That all leads us to protect water, not only for water security, but also food security, and necessarily as employment, health, political legitimacy, and eventually peace, as there is research tying water scarcity in Syria and Iraq and radicalization. And ISIS rise. So that is the puzzle. Maybe I should have also spent some time introducing water weaponization, but the longer I am in the field, I start to wonder if it is a field, because it touches on everything. So the table I'm presenting, the great table, is the gray, not the great table, is water weaponization typology, and it's the widest kind of understanding of it. So it goes all the way from like literally water canoeing protesters to sanctions. It is super wide, and all researchers like use something different. We could spend hours just debating this, and just to kind of illustrate how water is everywhere, we can, for example, speak about sanctions, restrictions fuel to Gaza, and what impact it has on the sewage facilities, right? What impact it has on health. Or, for example, when we attack hydroelectric infrastructure on a dam, like what is the risk management of, could the dam get breached? Does the water get polluted, right? Like what is the margin of risk we work with? But that's just challenges in the field. just to kind of introduce it quickly, we can understand water weaponization as either using too much water as floods, too little water as deprivation, contamination, and provision, which is the difficult gray sphere of kind of that the ISIS was great in, monetization of water, extortion through water, etc. Okay, so what I have wanted to see is if these moral expectations, constraints on water weaponization are true, and if I can prove them. So I have tracked the water weaponization in international law and international humanitarian law, and I worked with water conflict chronology dataset issued by Pacific Institute, California, and I have coded it to see which water events are not covered by the law, so they are sort of legal, which are illegal, but the perpetrators didn't ratify, so basically they do not accept the norm, so they cannot breach it, and then which literally breach ratification. As you can see, the breach ratification column is the tallest, so my conclusion is that signing prohibitory international law on water weaponization doesn't really stop water weaponization. It's, of course, not necessarily causation that I sign it and then I breach it, but we can see that there is no effect. And what's more, these cases are not uniform. I've tried to kind of show it through the light to dark color of green, but that's the scope of damage. That's another challenge in the field, I would say, because poisoning one well have a different, of course, consequences than breaching a dam, but it's not enough to count fatalities. We have also environmental impact. We have infrastructure damage. It might take different time to repair it in different world regions. So, like, the real impact is basically difficult to enumerate. Anyway, so these are estimations, but as you can see, signing prohibitory IL, the international humanitarian law, doesn't even advise proportionality. So within the breaches section, we also see the most of the worst water weaponization cases. This is basically the same on the timeline, where the scope of damage is shown by the height of the column and the legality by the color. I had two expectations, and one was that after the additional protocols in 1977, there would be no legal cases anymore because it was quite comprehensive, quite extensive, which did kind of prove true. Like, you cannot see the green color after the 77 much. The second expectation, of course, like, through the normative teaching on internalization, blah, 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 I expected decrease. So less and less water weaponization in time because we are getting this norm internalized. That didn't prove true. But at the same time, I cannot really claim, that cannot be my conclusion, that we can see more water weaponization, that like, that's impossible because I'm working with the estimates. I would say this is already a contribution in the field because I have seen before scientists saying that we are seeing increase or decrease because of these challenges I described. It's really, really difficult to describe the ground on which you judge it. So my conclusion is that just like we see ongoing water weaponization water despite the international law, and there is no water taboo unless we can find it in advocacy, at least. Because nuclear taboo also, right? Like, we're speaking about nuclear taboo, but then like there are states that are having arsenal and they are having it ready, and we are still having problem with proliferation. So like there is sort of a taboo non-use, but we are not, but we are still like having it in a debate. So I looked into the United States foreign policy because the idea of a nuclear taboo in the literature was also drafted for the United States, and I was searching for this advocacy. I have designed like a guideline for water taboo advocates. So step one is punish and speak up. Not necessarily punish because we're talking about international humanitarian law, which is unenforceable quite often, but speak up. And if you cannot speak up, because sometimes it is quite necessary to weaponize water, I can mention, for example, Ukraine, where they breached the Irpin Dam to stop the Russian advance on Kiev, right? So in these cases, at least deplore it to show that, okay, we have breached norm, we know that, but like we still believe in the norm. Step number 3, distinguish between, you know, like humanitarian aid, we're shipping water because like people need water, and this kind of stigmatization of attacking water specifically, and be consistent, right? So it shouldn't be a diplomatic tool if it's a taboo sort of, or like very hard norm constraint. And not so surprisingly, I didn't find it. I found that it is a norm that is used diplomatically. So US did use it against Russia, didn't use it against Israel, or very softly, and the US didn't comment on anything Saudi Arabia did in Yemen. Basically, these were my three cases. And that led me to one more question. With that, I'll conclude. And that was, is it so military utile to weaponize water that the norms just are overlooked? You know, like, does it deliver such great results that like states will do it because it's just what they have to do to win? So I've run just like simple analysis, again, difficult to code, but my results were literally like 50-50, where like 50% successful if success is judged as there are desired strategic gains that were brought, plus no strong repercussions happened back. So I call this false faith in military utility of water weaponization, and that is my ongoing field of studies. Thank you very much.